I stopped a check for $150,000 5 minutes before it cleared, and that single act of defiance saved my entire empire from a man who shares my blood. But that is not the secret I need to tell you today. The secret, the one that will unravel everything you think you know about family, money, and growing old with dark skin in this country. I will give it to you at the very end. And if you leave before I finish, you will keep bleeding money until the day they put you in the ground, with nothing but a rented casket and a church full of people who spent your wealth while you were still breathing. I am 80 years old. I built a real estate portfolio from nothing, from a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where the fire department took 40 minutes to show up because our lives were not worth the gasoline. I clawed my way through licensing boards that looked at my face and told me I did not have the right temperament for property management. Temperament, that is the word they use when they meant pigment. I survived all of that, and the thing that almost destroyed me was not the system, was not the banks, was not the men in gray suits who tried to lowball every building I ever purchased. It was my own nephew, standing in my office with tears rolling down his face, telling me his children would be homeless by Friday if I did not write him a check. His name is Marcus Jr. He is 45 years old. He is the son of my sister, who died 11 years ago from complications that a better hospital in a better zip code would have caught in time. I raised that boy through his worst years. I paid for his first suit, his first semester, his first failed business, his second failed business, and every single bailout in between. And last Friday, he sat across from my mahogany desk and told me his logistics company was collapsing, that the bank was foreclosing on a property tied to his operations, and that the children, my grandnieces, would be sleeping in his car by Monday. He invoked his mother's name. He invoked my role as the family anchor. He did everything short of getting on his knees, and honestly, the tears were close enough. So I wrote the check, $150,000, administrative, drawn directly from my operating account. I handed it to him and watched his hands shake as he folded it into his jacket pocket. He hugged me. He smelled like the cologne I bought him for Christmas, and for 12 hours I believed I had done the righteous thing. Then the algorithm did what family never does. It told me the truth without flinching. A notification from Instagram. Marcus Jr. tagged at a luxury dealership. Champagne on the hood of a brand new Porsche 911, grinning like a man who just won the lottery. Because in his mind, he did. The lottery was me. The winning ticket was my guilt. The jackpot was my inability to say no to a face that looks like my dead sister's face. That car was not a business expense. That car was not saving anybody's children from the street. That car was a 45-year-old man using my 70 years of war as his personal credit line. And the only crisis in his life was that his ego did not have enough horsepower. Now, before I tell you what I did next, you need to understand the 3 walls they build around women like me to keep us writing checks until we are bankrupt and buried. The first wall is the lie that your wealth is communal property. I have a cousin named Vanessa. She is 68. She has never built anything, not a business, not a savings account, not even a functioning budget for her own household. But Vanessa has a doctorate in guilt distribution. She calls me once a month, sometimes twice, and every conversation is an audit of my loyalty. She tells me I have forgotten where I came from. She tells me I act like the bankers who redlined our grandparents out of home ownership. She says I have become cold, that money changed me, that I think I am better than the rest of them. And here is the mechanism she is operating without even knowing it. When a black woman in this country accumulates wealth through decades of strategic combat, the expectation from every direction, from the community, from the culture, from the unspoken rules of survival, is that she must redistribute that wealth immediately and without question to anyone who shares her last name or her history. They call it solidarity. They call it remembering your roots. What it actually is a financial disarmament program designed to make sure no single black family ever consolidates enough capital to become untouchable. Vanessa does not work for a bank. Vanessa does not sit on a policy board. But Vanessa enforces the same economic outcome that redlining was built to achieve. She just does it with a phone call and a Bible verse instead of a pen and a deed restriction. The second wall is the banking system that profits from your erosion. My account manager, a man named Harrison, 50 years old, crisp shirts, firm handshake, smiles like he is selling you a timeshare in paradise. Harrison loves when elderly clients help their families. You know why. Every large transfer I authorize dilutes my negotiating power at that institution. Every withdrawal weakens the balance that qualifies me for premium rates, for leverage, for the kind of financial positioning that lets me acquire properties below market value. When my account shrinks, Harrison does not lose. Harrison gains. He gets to sell my desperate relatives predatory loans at inflated interest rates because they burned through my gift in 6 months and now they need the bank's money instead. The system is not broken. The system is performing exactly as it was engineered. It wants my wealth scattered across the pockets of people who will spend it in 90 days so the banks can recapture it with interest. I am not a grandmother to that system. I am a reservoir, and they need me to burst so the flood feeds their downstream machinery. The third wall, and this is the one that almost killed me, is the biological expectation of surrender. After 70, society rewrites your purpose. You are no longer a builder. You are no longer a strategist. You are a vault with a heartbeat, and your only remaining function is to open on command for anyone younger than you who claims they need what is inside. The eaterism that operates in financial planning is vicious and silent. Nobody tells you to your face that your money is no longer yours. They just start treating every dollar you spend on yourself as selfish and every dollar you give away as your sacred duty. They want you docile. They want you grateful that anyone still visits. They want your checkbook open and your mouth closed. And if you are a black woman, they add a second layer. They tell you that your suffering was collective, so your success must be collective too. Your pain was shared, so your profit must be shared. Your scars belong to the community, so your portfolio belongs to the community. That is not love. That is a hostage negotiation, where they use your own history as the weapon. But I am not telling you this so you can feel sorry for me or for yourself. I am telling you this because what happened next is the blueprint, and if you do not pay attention, you will be Marcus Jr.'s next ATM. The morning after I saw that photograph, I did not cry. I did not call him screaming. I opened my bank's biometric security portal at 5:45 in the morning, before the sun had the nerve to rise, and I activated a fraud hold on the check, using a legal provision for suspected coercive financial exploitation of a senior citizen. That is a real code. That is a real protection. And most people over 70 do not even know it exists because nobody tells us about the weapons that protect us. They only tell us about the weapons that drain us. Marcus Jr. found out the next day when the dealership ran the check and it came back dead. He called me 14 times. I did not answer a single one. I sat in my library, in the leather chair I bought with money I earned, closing a deal that 3 men told me I would never close. And I drank my burdock root tea, and I read my book, and I let that phone ring like a church bell at a funeral I was not attending. By the 4th day, Vanessa had mobilized. She and Marcus showed up at my front gate, the wrought iron one I installed after I stopped trusting doorbells. Vanessa screamed through the intercom that I was embarrassing the family, that I had broken a blood oath before God, that the entire community was talking about how Ruth Williams had turned her back on her own people. I let her finish. Then I pressed the mute button and went back to my tea. If you are still watching this, and you have ever let someone scream you into writing a check, type strength in the comments right now, because what I am about to tell you is the part they do not want you to hear. On the 5th day, they caught me. I was leaving my preventive physiotherapy clinic, the one I attend 3 times a week, because my body is a machine, and machines require maintenance. And Marcus Jr. was waiting in the parking lot. He blocked my driver's side door with his body. His face was twisted, not with sadness anymore, but with pure fury. The mask was gone. The tears were gone. The children's names were gone. All that was left was a man who had been forced to return a sports car and could not forgive the woman who made him do it. He leaned into my window and told me, with a voice I had never heard from him before, that I would die alone with my money if I did not call Harrison right now and authorize a new transfer. I looked at his face. I saw my sister in his jaw. I saw my mother in his forehead, and I saw a predator in his eyes. So I got into my car. I locked the doors. I lowered the tinted window exactly 3 centimeters, because 3 centimeters is enough to deliver a sentence, but not enough for a hand to reach through. And I told him, in the voice I have used to fire entire boards of directors, that not only was the check canceled permanently, but the open tap of family funding was sealed for everyone, forever. The next morning I called my family office, and I created something that will outlive every last one of them. The Arthur and Ruth Williams Educational Foundation. I transferred every cent of liquid surplus that my relatives had been circling like vultures into a philanthropic entity with ironclad legal restrictions. From that day forward, if any member of my bloodline wants a single dollar from my legacy, they must submit a formal 30-page business plan or a verified academic transcript to a board of independent corporate directors who have no emotional connection to my family and absolutely no tolerance for sob stories. I remove myself entirely from the approval chain. I am no longer the gatekeeper. I am no longer the target. The money still exists. The opportunity still exists. But the free ride is extinct. Loyalty now requires audited merit, not shared DNA. And here is what happened to my body through all of this. Because they want you to believe that standing your ground at 80 will kill you. They want you to think the stress of confrontation will stop your heart, so you stay quiet and keep paying. The shock of betrayal at my age is genuinely dangerous. A sudden spike in stress hormones can damage an 80-year-old cardiovascular system in minutes. But I do not operate on fragile biology. I operate on engineered resilience. My endocrine system is anchored by daily, precision-dosed, adaptogenic protocols that keep my cortisol flat when the world tries to spike it. My sleep architecture is non-negotiable. Clinically controlled temperature, total darkness, 7 hours minimum of restorative, deep phase recovery that cleans the metabolic waste from my brain every single night. I do not allow emotional parasites to shorten my telomeres. I do not allow financial predators to accelerate my cellular aging. The vitality that lets me walk to my car in my sapphire silk blouse with the quiet elegance of a woman who owns the building she is walking out of. That vitality is not luck. It is strategy. It is the biological armor that protects every material asset I have ever built. The real loyalty after 70 is not to your family's comfort. It is to your own cells and to the fortress you constructed with your irreplaceable years. Now here is the secret I promised you at the beginning. The one thing nobody tells you about financial loyalty to family after 70. The secret is not that they will take your money. You already know that. The secret is that they have already calculated how much you have. Every single relative who has ever asked you for help has a number in their head. They know your house. They know your car. They know your lifestyle. They have estimated your accounts, your properties, your insurance policies, and they have divided it among themselves long before you are dead. You are not a person to the predators in your bloodline. You are a pre-inheritance distribution schedule with a pulse. The moment you understand that, the moment you stop seeing their requests as love and start seeing them as early withdrawals from your estate, you become unkillable. Not because your heart gets harder, because your eyes finally open. Marcus Jr. has not spoken to me in 4 months. Vanessa sends a card at Christmas with a passive-aggressive Bible verse underlined twice. Harrison at the bank lost his biggest easy transfer client and has to actually work for his commissions now. And I sit in my library every evening, in my leather chair, with my tea, with my book, with my portfolio growing instead of shrinking, with my blood pressure lower than it has been in a decade, with my dignity intact, with my legacy locked inside a structure that will fund education for Black children for the next 100 years, instead of funding one man's fragile ego for the next 6 months. They told me I would die alone. Let me tell you something about alone. Alone with your wealth is peace. Alone with your health is power. Alone with your self-respect is the only luxury that nobody can repossess. I did not lose a family. I shed a liability. And my empire did not shrink. It became untouchable. So here is your last assignment. Go into those comments right now and tell me the worst excuse a relative has ever used to drain your savings. Or do nothing. Keep writing checks. Keep believing the tears. Keep funding the Porsches and the champagne and the lifestyles of people who will visit your grave once and then fight over your house before the dirt settles. The choice was never between love and money. The choice was always between being devoured and being free. I made mine. 80 years old, every dollar accounted for, every parasite locked out, every cell in my body defended. Now make yours.